going on? It's Kyle from K Capital. It's about 7:38, August 5th. What a couple weeks. It's been rough, to say the least. I mean, obviously we've had some nice winners here, which I'll go over in a little bit, but across the board, it's been pretty bearish. The market, along with crude, have completely taken a turn for the worst, retracing after being up several quarters in a row. So it was expected, but at the end of the day, we're treading water and we're doing well. There's a lot of other services out there that I've been following and they've been down. For the most part, we have some pretty bullish alerts here and, some things I'm going to touch upon right now that I think are pretty bullish. So first and foremost, let's start with WYY, WidePoint Corp. We closed this for a 10% loss today. One thing that caught my eye here, going back to the initial alert at 210 to 11, was the nice breakout here on significant volume. Obviously what I really saw here was it followed a similar pattern to where it broke out, pulled back, and rallied again. And obviously, I saw the same thing occurring here where it was a nice breakout, nice bullish candle, and it pulled back. But part of this just seems in the given market that it's not worth, really taking the risk to hold this any longer. Giving earnings are basically on the 13th, which I actually think that might be wrong date. This trend line could hold, and this bearish or this bullish pattern here to where this block in blue is really a nice area of built up demand. This could hold and this could turn, but I didn't want to risk it. I wanted to exit this position at our stop loss, get out of here while we still could, and just keep this on the back burner to see if it does turn where we could potentially add and get back into this. But for the time being, I think it's safe to say that this is a play that potentially could break down more, and it's not worth really the risk. Another one that we're long, or still long, I should say, is JAKK. This traded really, really nice today, up almost 5%. Right back to more or less our break even. I think we were long in the high 970s, low 980s. And really, this is a really nice chart coming out of the earnings call for the second quarter. It's been really bouncing along this trend line for a while now. And then similar to what I just said in WYY, one thing here is, this area where this broke out held very nicely. And so that served as support along with this trend line. And, it rallied pretty nice today. It wasn't the level of volume I'd like to see, but nonetheless, what I'm hoping for is this to continue along this trend line here and eventually break 1019 to hit our initial target of 11. So decent chart here. I love the pattern, love the setup. I think it's fundamentally pretty sound. It had a nice 6% beat here, or 2 cents on an EPS standpoint. So I think it's something that, again, we're going to hold this until that trend really breaks. And then until that trend breaks, we're going to keep holding this puppy. This brings me to our next open alert, which is GERN, which actually had earnings today, which none of my scans or pop-ups came out with earnings. They all had the 10th. So they had a decent earnings call here that's been trading up and down a little bit, about 5 cents plus or minus in after hours. But for the most part, I think this is going to be okay. The earnings call was fairly bullish. I think they had a miss from an EPS standpoint. But a lot of these stocks, when it comes to positions like this that are specifically pharmaceutical or biotechnology stocks, it's really just a matter of, what are their actual products in their pipeline? What are they doing? It's not really expected for companies like this to be cash flow positive from a free cash flow standpoint. So much of their free cash flow goes back into R&D. So, for the time being, we're going to hold this because this trend line is continuing to hold and it's consolidating, basically for the last 2 to 3 months, it's been kind of hitting this pattern. And as long as this 4 level holds, I think we're going to maintain this position for the time being. I think we have a stop loss order, a stop market limit order in at a 360 in this. So we're protecting on our downside here. Again, I think it's something that, I think is pretty key here that we protect our downside in this type of market, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So, nice position here. I think a lot of the analysts have targets fundamentally of 550 to 6, which would be a really nice pop here if we could see that. So, again, just another one that we're going to continue to hold. So stay tuned for more on that guy. Another earnings play that actually happened today was, or after the call, or after the close, was OPK. Now, OPK had a decent call. They traded plus or minus 30 cents to the close and after hours, and I think they just settled around 16.11. They were at a low, I think, of 15 6 to a high of 16.4 in after hours today. Our stop, or at least my stop, was not triggered, which I'm not sure why. I had to get on the phone with Interactive Brokers to figure out what happened. But I think that's a good thing. I think, again, the fundamental issues here with in terms of their targets, they missed in terms of EPS and sales. But again, it's a pharmaceutical company. So really, those things don't really play into what happens with the calls in terms of earnings. It's really all about forward-looking guidance in terms of what are they actually projected from their pipelines. So they had some bullish comments on the call in terms of some of their joint ventures and some of their M&A activity. A lot of the things that they acquired recently are going to come online in the next quarter to next, I think, month, September to the end of the quarter. So hopefully we see it bounce tomorrow. Obviously, we do have that open market order as a stop right around, I think, 15.8 or 15.9. So, it's going to serve as obviously a cap on our downside risk tomorrow morning. But for the time being, what I ideally would want to see here is this level hold, and then we see a nice upward reversal here to $18 to $19 over the next couple weeks. So again, let's just keep our eye on this tomorrow morning, especially coming out of a call. I think it's something that, we don't want to obviously be too risky on, but I think now that we have that stop loss in, we should be okay. And last but not least, we had EMKR, which was an alert from this morning. And this rally just huge. So this was something that caught my eye, I think, earlier in the week when we saw some nice bullish volume come in here. I went back and I took a look at some of the fundamentals, and, they had some decent calls over the last couple quarters to where they either were in line or they beat. And I saw that, this trend really was forming pretty nice where we had some nice pops in volume. So it's one thing that, again, I always look at is really the volume patterns. And when I saw this, I was pretty much intrigued because I saw earnings were coming up. I saw a volume uptick here. I'm like, okay, something's definitely up with this company. Let me take a look. And then early in the morning, they released earnings, and really they smoked all their estimates. Naturally, it rallied pretty hard. So we got in at 660. It's now at 716. Where is this going to go? I think naturally it's going to pull back slightly over the next couple of days, probably tomorrow. After a pop like 15%, obviously that's understandable. If you're not in this, I would not chase it. I'd wait for a pullback, probably around this point here, around the 680 range. And then obviously I think we'll continue higher, just given the bullish nature of the earnings call. So, very, very good trade here so far. So congratulations to anyone who did get in that with us. And it kind of brings me to our next position, which is ST. Again, a fundamental play here. This is by no means is a technical play whatsoever. These guys had a great call today. Fabulous call. So they beat on EPS. They beat on their production forecast in terms of their oil and natural gas output. And they beat on their sales targets, I think. More importantly, their look-ahead guidance was raised in terms of, I think, their production and their sales. So what is that? That's basically their look-ahead, forward-looking guidance that tells the street, analysts, traders like us, really what they expect in the future. And they raise the bottom level of that target for, I think, sales. Obviously, that's a huge, huge thing here. Now, again, this is contingent, this trade, or this investment, I should say, obviously on the price of oil, which is getting demolished across the board. What's good is that SD, in comparison to the other sector stocks, wasn't really killed that much today in comparison to the other plays. So obviously, I think that's slightly bullish. They have liquidity here, as I keep mentioning. They had the bond deal. I think of that bond deal, they have, I think, $933 million in cash to utilize whenever they need. They're cutting back on CapEx, and they're seeing a significant decrease in terms of their CapEx and their AFEs per well. So, all those things are very bullish. And I think it's something that over the long term, 18, 24 months, if crude kind of bounces back and gets back in the $55 to $65 range, I think these stocks, specifically SandRidge, could really be back above $1 to $1.50, where, our average price is right, I think, south of $1 now. That would be a really nice trade, or a nice investment to say the least. So it's just a matter really for these guys to tread water for the time being to, kind of weather the storm, so to speak, and to see what happens as, crude kind of trades up and down with the overall market. So I think we're okay here. I know it's obviously hard to swallow, but again, it's been a fundamental play from the beginning. So it's just a matter of really holding it out for the time and seeing what exactly happens. But so that's all we have really to cover. I'm going to go through our scans tonight. I'm not really trying to rush into too many stocks right now as we're still in earnings season and the market's still very, very, very bearish. So, we're going to find winners like EMKR. And again, I'll obviously keep sending out these alerts and make sure we can capitalize on those types of trades when they're available and not force the issue. But if you have any questions, please shoot me an email. Happy to respond and take you through whatever questions you may have. So we'll talk soon. And stay tuned for tonight. I'll send a new updated watch list with updated technicals on those positions. So talk soon, guys.